Now we arrive at the most important part of this series. Not the warning, not the analysis, but the response. Because warnings only matter if they change behavior. Welcome to Live for Free, where we transform lives through real estate. And this is the last episode of our 6-part series on what we must do to prevent a housing collapse. And today, we're talking all about actions. We're going to talk specifically what we must do and build to put in place before that shock happens. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, over the last several episodes, we have established something clearly, and that is that the housing system is under pressure. That we know for a fact. Funding structures are imbalanced, and communities have been pushed out of the solution. And most importantly, silence has made us unprepared. So, the question now is simple. What do we do and what do we build before the next shock hits? Because guess what? It's going to happen. There is going to be something that happens, and we must be prepared. Because waiting is not neutral, and waiting is a choice. So, as we think about housing, when you have delays, there's always a human cost. So I remember when we had the crash happen in 2007, 2008, and the impact of people who lost homes and lost housing was unheard of. And we had telltale signs, but we didn't pay attention to any of them. So what we must do now is respond now with the first thing we must do. And what we must build is balance. See, housing cannot be sustained when responsibility is concentrated in one place. When you've got federally funding coming through your organization, it cannot be your foundation. So when you're putting this together, you have to understand that states must figure out how to reclaim some of that ownership. And you've got communities that must now re-engage. And you're going to have private capital that must participate with purpose. And all that can be done to help turn this around. This is not about replacing government. Nobody wants to do that. It's about reinforcing the system so it does not collapse when one pillar shifts, because we are at that position right now. So balance is critical at this point for us to be able to put in place as quickly as we can. The second thing that we must build is decentralized housing models, because large centralized systems are efficient on paper, but they're fragile in practice, because when they fail at scale. So when we can decentralize those models, we can then distribute that risk. And this allows for adaptation. And it allows also for us to respond faster to those local conditions. And this is where transitional housing is critical. So as you think about, because I've heard them talk on the last call when they were trying to figure out what they were going to do, everyone wanted to be on the transitional housing wagon. And I'll just say this, that transitional housing is not meant to be something that's permanent, and nor is it a temporary containment, but it can serve as a structured bridge to get people where they need to go. So that's why having and working with operators who have a time-limited housing model put together with the supportive services that they need, we can create the stability that's necessary to respond and be able to do that where emergency services can't respond. We must also protect these models, and we must figure out a way to expand them. That's why I focus so much on making sure that my operators know how to move well in this space, and we're treating what they are creating as a program that's required for people to participate in, not just optional. The third thing that we must build is a community-anchored support. And housing does not succeed in isolation. I just want you to know that. People stabilize when housing is paired with relationship, because you have the accountability, you've got the belonging, all those things work together. So when the community is involved and you have community anchored housing in place, it actually creates that early intervention that's needed before a crisis happens. And that's what you want to be able to do. It also reduces churn, and it also will improve the long-term outcomes that you want to create. And this is where shared housing, faith partnerships, and local operators matter, not as side programs, but as core infrastructure. And the fourth thing that we must build is having church engagement that is structured and sustainable, not just charity driven, but being in a position where they're strategic. We don't want to just respond to a crisis when you're in need of emergency shelter or when you're in need of funds. You want to be able to respond strategically as a unit. And when those work together, you've got so much power. See, churches should not wait until people show up in crisis. They should be a part of the preventative structure that you put in place. And we, in just what I said right there, will be critical pieces to preventing a potential housing collapse. So this includes having partnerships with housing providers, use of underutilized land and buildings. Like, I'm looking at buildings all day long that are vacant and livable that we could figure out how to use. And having that relational mentoring and community integration working together, that is what creates something that is practical, not political. So as you move into this space and you see how important the church is, we need to get them to a place where they are aligned again with what we are doing. And we can have them take on that historic role that they used to have. And the fifth thing that we must build on is leadership capacity. So when housing does not fail only because of funding, I want you to know that it fails because of burnout. And it fails because you've got operators who are exhausted. And you've got staff that's stretched, and you have leaders who are isolated. So if we do not invest in our leadership, we're going to lose the very people that are holding the system together. So that's why I focus so much with my operators who are learning how to put together transitional housing. We focus on leadership, and we focus on developing them as leaders, because they are the ones who are going to help us preserve housing when it's set up right. We want them to have everything they need to be the best leader that they can become in this space of a housing provider. And finally, I will say this, and this is the most important. We've got time. They're giving us time. But guess what? Just because we have time does not mean that we should not build now. Because we must build now, not after the next policy shift or the next announcement about funds being cut, and not even after the next surge, but now. Because preparation happens before collapse, not after. And this series I've created exists because the warning has already been issued. The question is not whether pressure is coming. The question is whether we will respond with intention or react in crisis. Which will it be? I believe we can respond with intention, And leadership can be where it needs to be in the moments like this. We need our leaders stepping up, whether you're choosing to create a transitional housing program or whether you want to just be a part of the solution, partnering with an operator. But we need you engaged, and we need leaders who want to step up in moments like this to answer the call and create something that is phenomenal. And that's why we work so hard, not only here in Live for Free as I do these episodes, but as we work in our Transitional Housing Maximized school community. If you've not joined, go ahead and join now. Go to tonyschool.com. That's TONISKOOL.com. And when you join, you will be going with other purpose-driven leaders toward making this difference happen across our country. Now, as you've listened to this series, I hope that none of you took it as me being critical or criticizing what people are doing, but I am being here to be constructive. I want us in a position where we are building models that last and communities that can stabilize those individuals who need housing, and that we can build systems that serve people with dignity. Because the future of housing will not be decided by policy alone. It will be decided by you. Those of you who step up and take the call, this is now your invitation. Your invitation to lead, your invitation to build, and your invitation to prepare. Because leadership does not wait for collapse. Leadership acts when the warning is given. So go ahead and take action today.